Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen up, Chaos Kids. I'm Naomi.
I'm Amber, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos.
We're dancing.
You know what? That's all we need when you're having a bad
Just
day.
dance it
just
out.
A little shimmy.
Dance it out.
Dance it out. Oh my gosh. Hey, sister.
Hey, hello.
Hey.
Hi, how are ya?
Hi.
What's going on?
Well, it's Friday, and it feels like this was the longest week ever.
It does feel like it was the longest week ever. I was talking to somebody on Tuesday. I was like, this week has been so long. I'm like, it's Tuesday.
Right?
But yes. Yes.
Oh, it just wouldn't stop.
It's that damn daylight savings. Look, you guys know we record well in advance of when these air. So this will be like a month later and you'll be like, oh, right. We went through that a month ago. Mm-hmm. I cannot.
They're still not over it.
I cannot. And I will tell you, I have been not fit for human consumption most of the week. You know, like I should not be around people. This is how lives get destroyed, you know, at the very least relationships. So I'm at that stage today. Depending on your story, I might cry because I'm at the like either flip a table or lay down and sob kind of, you know, like it could go either way.
Oh, you know, I wish that I had a crystal ball because I also didn't just whip this story up this morning. If I could know the days when you would need a lighthearted, I would curate that for you.
You know what?
I am not that.
I appreciate the sentiment. I really do.
Fuck.
It's the thought that counts.
It was there.
I appreciate
there just
that.
now.
What are you drinking today, sissy?
Thank you for asking. I am drinking a Malbec, a 2020 red from Argentina.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
nice. All right.
Thank you.
I'm drinking water per use.
You
know how I do.
I know.
So thank you, everyone. I'm going to say it again for who came out to the live show, because I'm just going to make this like assumption that people did come to the show and like enjoyed themselves. I'm hoping. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And don't forget to go and join the Patreon Chaos Kids Club. $5 a month. You get access to the back catalog, and you also get a bonus episode every month. And if you weren't able to make it to the live show, that is the bonus this month. So go and join the club so you can hear the live show that you couldn't go to. And once we get 10 of you, we're going to have a virtual wine night. We're all going to get on a video call and chat it up. So let's go, Chaos Kids.
It's going to be epic. And shout out to Bev in Canada for reaching out.
Oh my God.
And saying hi.
Bev, stop it. Hi. How sweet was that?
I know. Sweet Bev. And Bev is an NFL fan, and one of her top 3 favorite teams happens to be the Seattle Seahawks. So,
you know, some people are just gluttons for punishment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The perpetual disappointment that is the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, you know what? I'm ready to flip a table or lay down and cry. So give it to me, sister. Give me this horrible.
You might do both.
You know what? I could get down with both. So let's hear this. Let's hear this nightmare tale that you've
great.
put together for me.
Okay. Well, most of my information came from Evil Lives Here. Have you ever watched that show?
I don't know. You know, the titles of all those shows just blend together for me. So maybe, probably.
Yeah. Well, Evil Lives Here is almost entirely done from the perspective of a loved one of the perpetrator.
Oh, you know what? I have seen some of these episodes. And like a lot of times there's like home video footage or even of the person and like the whole family dynamic and story around like this person was my uncle or whatever. And they were also like a horrible murderer or whatever. Yeah.
I just think that sometimes those are like forgotten victims, you know?
Yeah.
So
100%.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you a story about Diane.
Okay.
So Diane was 19 years old. She had just graduated from high school and was living in Honolulu, Hawaii. God, what a place to live.
Island living, right?
Do you think it loses the vibe if you actually live there?
Oh, totally.
Oh, too bad, because it's amazing. So this is where she meets Mark Burns at a nightclub in Waikiki. Mark was a Marine and extremely charming, and Diane had a ton of fun with him that night.
I'm sure she did.
So, yeah, she says that he asked her for her number, and since she was like really vibing with him, she was like, fuck yeah. So she gave him her number. So the two started dating, and she says that he was extremely caring and generous. And after a couple of years of dating, like it sounded like semi-cash,
Yeah.
Mark finds out that he is going to be stationed in North Carolina, and Diane decides that she wants to keep seeing him. So they stay together and have a long distance relationship.
Oh, that's tough. That is tough. That's a really long distance relationship. I mean, that's like Hawaii.
Yeah, if you're in Hawaii and your partner is anywhere else.
Well, on top of that, I mean, yes, but it's not like Hawaii and like the west coast of the US. We're talking like Hawaii and then the east coast. So it's like, what is that? Like a 12-hour flight or something? I don't know, 9-hour flight. Yeah, I mean, it's a long way. I don't know how long the flight is to Hawaii from Seattle. But it's like
5.5 hours.
It's 5.5 hours. Okay. So it's like, depending on which direction you're going, it's anywhere between 5 and 6 hours from coast to coast. So yeah, you're looking at like a 10 to an 11-hour flight one way.
Oh, geez. Okay. So, so they have a long distance relationship, and a few years into the long distance relationship, Diane gets a late night phone call from Mark, and he is calling her because he is in jail. And he tells Diane that he has been falsely accused of rape, and he swears that he didn't do it.
Okay.
He tells her that there was a woman who was forced into a McDonald's bathroom and sexually assaulted, and that it's being pinned on him.
All right, Mark.
Okay, Mark. So Diane said that he's telling her all this. He's crying. He's totally like inconsolable. And she believes him and feels awful that this terrible thing has happened to him. And she said she knew Mark really well. And she knew in her heart that he wasn't capable of something like this. Okay. But listen, statistically speaking, like Mark fucking did it. But the sad thing is like what she feels could also be true. You know,
maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Always believe the victim. That's not what I'm saying. But we'll circle back to this conversation because it got me thinking. And
okay.
I'm curious about your take on it. So,
okay.
Mark is ultimately found guilty of the rape charges, and Diane is devastated, but she tells Mark that she will wait for him. And so they maintain a relationship over the phone and through letters while Mark is in jail for 10 years.
Oh my God, no.
Yep.
There are 7 billion people on this planet. That's all I'm saying. Keep going.
So Mark even proposes to her over the phone. And listen.
Okay.
She said it wasn't the most romantic thing.
I don't believe you.
And they ended up getting married in the prison. You're so mad.
I can't.
Okay. So she says that despite the odd circumstances, she loved Mark and the two.
Odd. Okay. So that's a choice in wordage, but okay.
Okay. You know what? Maybe this is exactly what you needed today. I don't see. Maybe you won't cry or flip the table.
Maybe I won't. It's all so ridiculous. I cannot. Okay, keep going.
Okay. Oh, God. So about 2 years into the marriage, Mark is still in prison. And Diane is at the prison visiting him. And Mark tells her that he has something that he needs to get off his chest.
I bet he does.
Yep. He tells Diane that he did, in fact, rape that woman, but that he has since found God and he needed to tell her the truth.
I have nothing.
Okay. Well, and also it's important to point out here that Diane is deeply, deeply religious. And I don't think I said it in the beginning, but this is like 1970 something. So she's got other things sort of working against her as far as marrying young, believing that she's supposed to stay in her marriage, You know what I mean?
Her deep religious convictions.
Mhm. Yes.
Jesus is
Yeah.
in charge here. Okay. Got it.
He's in charge. Okay. So Diane asks Mark why he would do such a thing, and he tells her that he doesn't know. He doesn't know what he was thinking, but that he is certain that nothing like this will ever happen again.
Okay. Well,
And Diane,
he has God now, so.
well, also it's like, I love this because it's like, yeah, you've been sitting in prison for 10 years with men.
Right.
You have not been given the opportunity to do this again.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Okay.
So she's mad, but she forgives him and she stays in the marriage. By the time Mark is released, they've been married for 3 years. And very shortly after his release, Diane gets pregnant and gives birth to a daughter. And around the 1-year mark of his release, Mark starts going out in the evenings a lot and not coming home until the next morning.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And he gets real pissed at Diane when she tries to ask him where he was. And he tells her that it's none of her business.
Look, Mark only has to answer to God, okay?
Okay. Sorry.
Not the woman he married.
I hate this man.
So much.
I hate this man.
So much.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh. So one morning, Mark comes strolling in around 10 a.m. after being out all night. He walks past Diane in the kitchen and he says good morning to her, but she's fucking pissed, so she doesn't respond. She gives him the silent treatment. So Mark takes the cup of coffee that he's holding and throws it against the wall, breaking the mug and getting coffee everywhere. Then he tells Diane to clean up that mess, and if she doesn't, he will kill her.
Oh, well, that escalated quickly. Jeez. No, you know what?
Yeah.
Jesus needs to take the wheel here. Okay? Because Mark's driving pretty fast.
Pretty reckless, Mark. Pretty reckless. Okay, so not too long. This is gross. Not too long after this incident, Diane finds women's underwear on the floor of Mark's car.
Uh-huh.
And he tries to tell her that they were a gift for her that he forgot to wrap.
He just forgot to wrap dirty underwear that's sitting in the bottom of his car.
Yes, they were clearly worn. He forgot to wrap dirty underwear.
Like the worst liar.
I know.
Like what?
So,
I mean, at this point, why does he even
expect
bother?
this to be funny?
I'm sorry. What this?
Why does he even bother?
Seriously, why is he even making up stories at this point? What? He already threatened to kill her. He's just willy-nilly leaving underwear lying around in the car. Like why does it even matter? Okay. Just tell her. Like she's not going anywhere anyway, right? She's like, so religiously convicted. She's going to stay anyway because divorce is some kind of sin or something. I don't know. So like, why is he even bothering lying? Because this is that like thing we've talked about before, the weird morality thing where it's like he's off clearly either fucking around and or like raping women again, right? But then he's like won't, like he has to lie to her to maintain some kind of veneer of like moral upstandingness that he's not that guy.
Right.
Like just be that guy.
Yeah. I'll fucking own it.
Just be it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Diane eventually gets to the point where she can't take it anymore and she wants out of the marriage. So she goes to one of the elders in her church for help. And this awesome fucker tells her that she needs to stay in her marriage and make it work.
Of course he does.
Mm-hmm.
This is what old white dudes in religious institutions do for women.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for your help, asshole. So then Diane starts to learn that they have a bunch of checks bouncing. And when she tries to talk to Mark about it, he grabs the antenna from the TV and repeatedly hits her over the head with it.
This guy's fun.
This guy sucks.
It's really fun. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So Diane is like scared shitless of him, but she feels trapped. And Mark even tells her that he has an evil in him that controls him. I mean, what's past red flag? What do you call that? Like
the floor is lava? I don't fucking know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like an inferno, like everything's on fire.
Yes.
Diane, your hair's on fire.
Everything's on fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she should just make it work with this guy.
No. Oh my God. This guy is a creep. So one night, Mark and Diane are at home in the evening. They're watching TV and 2 sheriffs come to the door and they say that they have a warrant for Mark's arrest. So as they're cuffing him, they tell him that he is being charged with peeping. I don't know if it's called that
Okay.
anymore. Voyeurism.
I mean, probably. Yeah. But like
Mhm.
voyeurism is just a general like thing. Peeping is like
I know.
implies that like you're not it's not consented to.
Right.
Right.
So the next day, Diane goes to visit Mark in the jail, and he admits to her that he was, in fact, peeping. And Diane basically is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She didn't say fuck because Jesus. What the heck is wrong with you?
Right.
How can you do this? You owe this woman an apology. And so Diane decides not to post Mark's bail, and she leaves him there.
Well, yeah. She needs a
Yeah,
break
I mean-
anyway. Jesus. You keep him.
No shit. Oh my God. No shit. So now Diane is like, what the actual fuck? So he's sitting in jail, and she goes and meets with his parole officer to get the scoop. And the parole officer tells Diane that Mark is in jail because he has been stalking a young woman who he first saw when he was behind her in line at the grocery store. And when she got her checkbook out to pay, he was able to look at her checkbook and memorize her address. And he has been following her for months until she finally called the police.
Fucking creep.
Such a fucking creep.
And all this woman did was go to the grocery store. So,
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know. So Mark ends up being sentenced to an inpatient treatment facility.
What?
Yeah. And when he comes home, he tells Diane that he is a changed man. I had no inclination that this was going to make you laugh so hard.
This fucking guy.
So
Okay.
Diane knows that he's full of
Please
shit,
tell
but
me.
she doesn't.
She did not. She did not believe that nonsense.
No, but she doesn't have anywhere to go. Like, her only people, because she moved across the country, are her church people, and church person is telling her, suck it up, buttercup, you know? So Mark ends up getting a job at a Sheridan hotel, but the job didn't last long because he was fired for using his work keys to let himself into hotel rooms with female occupants. This guy.
What is this convicted rapist doing with a job where he has keys that gets him into people's private spaces?
That's a great
Are
question.
we still in the 70s here, or we moved into the 80s at this point?
We've moved into the late 80s.
We're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
So
There were background checks by the 80s. That's all I'm saying. You could get a background check by the late 80s.
No shit. I don't fucking know. That's a great question. These are great questions. I don't have the answers.
I'm sorry to ask the
that's okay.
questions.
No. That's what you're supposed to do. And I'm supposed to have the answers, and I don't. So,
okay.
One night, Mark and Diane get in another huge fight, and Mark strangles Diane almost to the point of her passing out. And so this is when Diane finally decides that she needs to leave.
Fuck the church. Fuck that old white man who told her to work it out. We're going now.
Yep, bye. So she reaches out to a friend in her Bible study group. And this friend, thank God, does help Diane pack up some things and get out of there.
Oh, so there's like at least one reasonable person in her church.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So in February of 1990, Diane moves back to her hometown in Minnesota to start her life over. She's 37 years old. In December of that year, she filed for divorce, and she says that the divorce cost her $35, and it was the best money she ever spent. I know.
Girl, my divorce cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and it was the best money I ever fucking spent.
Exactly. Yeah. When you know. It's always going to be the best money you ever spent.
Yep.
So by this time, she had zero communication with Mark, like dunzo. She took her daughter.
Good.
And she was like, bye.
Yeah.
So fast forward to 2019. Diane is casually scrolling through YouTube when she comes across Mark's face with the title saying, "The Clearfield Rapist had finally been captured." Mark had been arrested and was...
This was like 20 years, almost this way, 19 years after she left?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. He was responsible for multiple rapes from 1991 to 2001. That's what he was arrested for, but clearly he was doing it this long before that. A genetic genealogist, again, used a public database to find a relative of his who had uploaded their DNA online, which eventually led police to this serial rapist, Mark Burns. He was found guilty of 17 counts, including rape and kidnapping, and he later confessed to 3 murders.
What? He confessed to murders?
Mm-hmm. They think that they suspect 1 for sure, but the other 2 have not been identified. This guy is a whack job. I don't even know if that's true. I don't think they could ever actually charge him with those. He's a fucking whack. Oh my God. There's footage of him because he went to trial during COVID times. And so it's like video court and you can watch his sentencing hearing online. And he's like, I don't know what's going on with me, but like all of a sudden out of nowhere, like I have emotions that I've never had. And like, I feel bad that I did these things.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This guy. I cannot. What? Okay.
So,
okay.
He was sentenced to 242 years. His victims ranged, well, yeah, no opportunity for parole. 242 years.
But how old is this guy by this point? Because, I mean, he's got to be like at least in his 50s, if not older,
He's
right?
70, I think, when he's arrested.
Oh my God. Okay.
This is like Golden State shit.
Yes.
Uh-huh. The peeping and then the rape and then the murders and going undetected for all those years and then genetic DNA. I mean, it's bonkers. So his victims ranged in age from 11 to 52. And in the courtroom,
God,
11. I know.
Okay.
During his sentencing, one of his victims recounted her brutal rape, saying it left her with decades worth of trauma and difficulty with trusting people. She said, quote, "The bravest thing I ever did was continuing my life when I wanted to die. Yet during these past 2 decades, Mark Douglas Burns was able to live his own life freely like nothing ever happened. He gave me a life sentence, but he himself was free to live his life without any repercussions."
Yeah, I mean,
true.
that's the thing. That's the thing about these, like the Golden State Killer and like this guy. When they finally get picked up and they're like 70 plus, and it's like that is not satisfying at all.
No, it's not. It's not.
They just spent a lifetime doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do, living, just walking amongst us, causing damage and harm and wreaking havoc on other people's lives with like no fucking consequences.
Right. And right when they're at the age in their life where their like plans are just to fucking sit in their chair anyway.
Right.
You know?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. Fuck right off, Mark Burns. What a piece of shit. But the thing that I guess the thing that I was thinking about is like, I think pre me doing this, like my first thought when Diane was telling her story would have been like, really, sister? Like, you don't know that your husband is doing some shit? Really? But I like more and more, I think, I mean, this guy was dumb, but it's like, I don't know if you really can be married to somebody and living with them and be completely unaware that they have like this other fucking evil, dark life that you don't know about.
It's been documented multiple times with like the big names, right? BTK's wife and kids had no idea. Ted Bundy had a wife that was like, didn't have any clue of like the monster that he was, right? Like,
yeah.
I was talking to somebody not that long ago about it. And they were like, no, deep down somewhere, they fucking knew. I blame their women too, or something like that. I'm like, I don't know, man. There's some spouses that are literally in the fucking dark about this shit. But I mean,
I know.
I don't know. And I think part of it too is that like, even if their husbands were like Mark, right? They were mean, they were violent with them, whatever. I think it's still really difficult for most people, for most normal-ish people, to wrap their minds around the idea that they are either have feelings for or married to or live with or know intimately in any way someone who is capable of that kind of violence and like lack of human, like empathetic capacity. So it's like, I think it's so outside the realm of what people like us could wrap our minds around, that it's like they can't think, oh, of course he's a murderer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I just had a very similar conversation the other day because somehow the subject of somebody that I dated in high school who later was convicted of rape, we were talking about him.
yeah, I remember that story. It was fucking horrific.
And it's fucking horrific. And it's like, well, and the comment was basically like, how could you not know? Like, that guy was a little shithead. I'm like, yes, he was a little shithead. He was a drug user and he was a thief. Nowhere in my mind did I think that he would harm somebody like that. That is fucking next level.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I was floored when I heard that. Like, no fucking way.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it seems unimaginable to do that, because we would never do something like that. We can't. It's hard to imagine that we would be close to somebody who would.
Yeah. There's an otherness that your brain does.
Yes.
Of like, people like that aren't in my circle.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, sister, that was hilariously terrible for some reason. I didn't flip a table and I didn't cry. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you there. That was an unexpected response.
Well, okay. Well, either way.
Well, let's just move on from that piece of shit.
Okay.
And let me tell you a chaos story. How does that sound?
I love your chaos stories. They're so fucking weird.
I think I might be able to deliver. I think I might be able to deliver today. Let me just move this over so I can see your beautiful face. Give me a second. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. So it is December 8th, 1976. Okay. The production crew of the TV show The $6 Million Man was filming some scenes for an episode titled Carnival of Spies. They were in Long Beach, California at the Pike. So the Pike was a whole amusement park area on the shoreline at Long Beach. It had several arcades and food stands and gift shops and some rides, kind of like Coney Island on Long Beach, right? So while the crew was setting up for a shoot inside the Laugh in the Dark funhouse, I have to point out, laugh is spelled Laff.
Okay.
One of the
whatever.
Yeah, I know. One of the techs bumped into a mannequin that was hanging from the ceiling, covered in red glow-in-the-dark paint.
Mm-hmm.
The bump was hard enough to knock one of the arms off the figure. The tech reached down, picked up the mannequin arm, and grabbed some glue and was just going to fix it real quick. No biggie. Except when he looked more closely at the arm, he realized it had a very realistic-looking bone sticking out of it.
No. Mannequins don't have bones.
Right.
Oh, no.
To his horror, the tech realized that the arm and the body it broke off of was not a mannequin at all, but an actual corpse.
Fuck, when they say it's never a mannequin, it's like legit never a mannequin.
It's legit never a mannequin.
Watch your back in Macy's.
I'm
ladies.
just saying.
You never know.
Watch your back in Macy's. So, of course, the police were called and the body was packed up and sent to the LA County Coroner's Office, where they set about the task of identifying this mysterious body. The one thing everyone agreed on was that the body looked ancient. Some speculated it was actually a Central or South American mummy. Apparently, this wouldn't be the first time the Los Angeles police had encountered that.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. We got another one.
Got another mummy. So as detectives tracked down leads from carnival workers and museum owners, the coroner performed an autopsy. Inside the chest of the body was a copper jacket of a bullet that was clearly the cause of death. This bullet was a type that had not been manufactured in a very long time. That, combined with the embalming technique, led the coroner to think this body was from the early 20th century. Within a week, detectives tracking down the body's provenance determined it was likely the remains of one Elmer McCurdy. Photos were matched against images in the University of Oklahoma archive, and they were confident they had their man. So who the hell was Elmer McCurdy, and how did his well-preserved corpse end up dangling by a rope in a funhouse in Long Beach, California?
Yeah, in the laugh house spelled FF. Yeah, that's fucking
Yeah.
disrespect to the decedent.
Right? Decedent. I love that word. Okay, well, I'll tell you. Elmer was born in Washington, Maine on January 1st, 1880, to a 17-year-old unwed mother, Sadie McCurdy. There was a rumor that Elmer's father was Sadie's cousin, Charles Smith, but no one really knew for sure. In order to save Sadie the absolute shame of being a single mom with an illegitimate child, Sadie's brother and his wife, George and Helen, adopted Elmer.
Okay, I just want to point out that the shame here is that she's unmarried and not that it's her cousin's baby.
Right.
Okay.
That's
We're
right.
focusing on the wrong problem here.
We
folks.
think maybe it's her cousin's baby. Maybe.
Okay.
So 10 years later, George died of tuberculosis, and Helen and Sadie moved with Elmer to Bangor. Shortly after, Sadie revealed to Elmer that she was his biological mom and that his father was unknown. And Elmer did not take this news well. He grew resentful and then unruly and rebellious.
So I'm sorry, one more time. They're growing up as siblings or as cousins?
No,
Like his mom, who did he think she was? To
they
him?
didn't really. I didn't really see anywhere where it said who he thought Sadie was. Maybe his aunt, since it was her brother and her brother's wife that took Elmer in and adopted him. So, but once her brother died, so her sister-in-law and her moved, and she told Elmer, like, really, I'm your mom, and like not Helen. Elmer was just like kind of pissed about it. So as he moved into his teenage years, he started drinking a lot, and that never stopped. So at some point, Elmer moved back to Washington to live with his grandfather, where he became an apprentice plumber. And by all accounts, he was pretty good at it, and he was living pretty comfortably until the economic downturn of 1898. It was then that he lost his job. In August of 1890, his mom died of a ruptured ulcer. And in September, like a month later, his grandpa died of Bright's disease. It was soon after this that Elmer started to become wayward.
Oh.
He left Maine entirely and was kind of drifting around the eastern U.S. He worked as a lead miner and a plumber, but he wasn't really ever able to hold a job for any significant period of time because of his drinking. And I don't know if they called it alcoholism then, but that's what we would call it now.
Sure.
He made his way to Kansas, hopped around Kansas for a bit, got arrested for public drunkenness. He bopped over to Missouri for a while. And then in 1907, he joined the Army because they'll take anybody. And this is where he was trained as a machine gun operator and kind of trained to use nitroglycerin for demolition purposes.
Oh, okay. Not only will they take anyone, but they're going to give a belligerent alcoholic a machine gun?
And teach him how to use nitroglycerin. Sort of, according to Wiki, the extent of this training with the nitroglycerin was likely minimal.
Sure. Sounds perfect.
He was honorably discharged 3 years later in 1910 and headed back to Kansas, where he hooked up with an Army buddy. And less than 2 weeks after getting out of the Army, he and his buddy are arrested for possession of burglary paraphernalia, which included chisels, hacksaws, funnels for nitroglycerin, gunpowder, and money sacks. The local paper reported that when Elmer and his friend were arraigned, they told the judge all that stuff was not intended for the purposes of burglary, but instead they were for the building of a foot-operated machine gun that they were inventing.
Oh. Okay.
Right? In January 1911, a jury found him not guilty, and upon his release, Elmer decided his next career move was as a train and bank robber.
His next career move. Okay.
But they were mostly botched because he wasn't really very good at it. He kept trying to use nitroglycerin on his jobs, but it mostly only caused him problems because he didn't actually know what he was doing. He could never figure out the right amount to use for the job.
Because the less than stellar training that he got?
That's right.
Yeah. That's right.
On March 24th, 1911, Elmer and 3 other dudes decide to rob the Iron Mountain, Missouri Pacific train number 104. Elmer heard that one of the cars was carrying a safe with $4,000 inside, which is equal to a little over $126,000 today. So
Shit.
yeah, they did stop the train and they did find the safe. Elmer put nitroglycerin on the door, but he used too much, so he destroyed the safe and most of the money inside.
Oh my God. Elmer, come on.
He and his buddies managed to salvage about $450 in silver coins, but they were mostly melted and fused to the frame of the safe.
Oh my God. Wow. It's like creating your own die pack.
On September 21st, 1911, Elmer made another robbery attempt, this time with 2 new dudes, I think. So they set their sights on the Citizens Bank in Chautauqua, Kansas. First, they spent 2 hours breaking through the wall of the bank with a hammer.
And nobody noticed that.
Apparently not.
Soup's chill.
I know,
Okay.
right? Of course, Elmer's next move was nitroglycerin on the vault door.
He needs to stop. Okay. Fucking Elmer.
He managed to blast the vault door and it blew through and destroyed like the whole interior of the bank.
Of course.
But the safe inside the vault was just fine.
Oh, good.
So he tried to blow open the safe with more nitroglycerin, but he couldn't get it to ignite. And then one of his buddies got antsy because this was all taking way too long, right?
Well, yeah.
So
They're 2+ hours in.
and making a lot of noise,
Yeah, no shit.
right? So one of the guys runs off. He's like, I gotta go. And Elmer and the other guy grabbed about $150 worth of coins that were sitting in a trade, like in the vault, and they ran.
At each turn, they're not even grabbing enough to bail themselves out for
Right.
these crimes.
That's right.
God, they're not very good at this.
No, really not. So
Mm-mm.
Elmer flies solo to a buddy's ranch in Oklahoma. He has a friend who has a ranch out in Oklahoma, and so he runs off to chill in a shed there for a few weeks and get shit faced. That's what he
To chill in a shed. Nothing about living in a shed sounds chill.
he's just lying around on like a bale of hay in a shed,
cool.
drinking
Okay.
whiskey. And then came Elmer's final robbery, October 4th, 1911, near Okessa, Oklahoma. Elmer and 2 dudes, and it's unclear if these are the same 2 dudes from the last robbery or the first robbery or 2 entirely different dudes. I don't know. They had a plan to rob a train after hearing there would be $400,000 on that train. That's in 1911 money. This money was a royalty payment to the Osage Nation, which is a Native American tribe.
Wow.
These fucking idiots stopped a passenger train instead by mistake. So,
Oh my God.
so they made out with $46 from the mail clerk, some whiskey, a gun, a coat, and the train conductor's watch.
Oh my God.
A newspaper
Oh my.
A newspaper account of the robbery called it, quote, one of the smallest in the history of train robbery.
That's awesome.
So good. Elmer was pretty fucking bummed when he headed back to his buddy's ranch in Oklahoma to drink that whiskey he stole and have a drunken lay down for a while.
In the shed.
In the shed. And he wasn't feeling well either because by this time he also had tuberculosis, a mild case of pneumonia, and a case of roundworm.
Jesus Christ.
He wasn't doing good. He was not doing well. Well, he spent one night drinking like all through the night and into the morning with some of the ranch hands and then passed out in the shed. What he didn't know was that there was a $2,000 reward out for him and the law was on its way.
Uh-oh.
Early in the morning.
He's in no
on October
position to get up and move.
No. Early in the morning on October 7th, a posse of 3 sheriffs showed up to take Elmer in, and a gunfight ensued. So there was about an hour of back and forth of them shooting, Elmer shooting back, and then Elmer stopped firing back. No one knows for sure which of the 3 sheriffs got him, but Elmer died from a single gunshot wound to the chest, and he was laying down when he was hit.
Oh.
So Elmer's body was taken to an undertaker in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, where it sat unclaimed. The undertaker had embalmed Elmer with an arsenic-based preservative. This is the technique that the LA coroner would identify that indicated when the body had been embalmed, because this is an old technique they don't use anymore. It was common back then to use that technique to preserve a body for a long period of time when next of kin is unknown.
Okay.
Then he shaved Elmer's face, put him in a suit, and stored him in the back of the funeral home.
Oh, that's nice.
Well,
no.
The undertaker refused to bury or release Elmer until he was paid for his services, which would have typically been taken care of by whoever claimed the body.
Oh.
But no one came to claim the body. Eventually, he decided he could make some money off this fucker by putting him on display and charging people to come see, quote, the bandit who wouldn't give up.
Wow.
Yes. At various times, Elmer was also called, quote, the mystery man of many aliases and the Oklahoma outlaw and the embalmed bandit.
Well, I guess he's infamous even in death.
That's right. He dressed Elmer in street clothes, placed a rifle in his hands, and stood him up in the corner of the funeral home. The bandit became a popular attraction and drew the attention of carnival promoters. The undertaker received numerous offers to sell Elmer's corpse, but he absolutely refused.
Oh, wow.
Then, in October of 1916, this dude Aver gets in touch with the undertaker. Aver has already contacted the sheriff and a local attorney, and he claimed he was Elmer's long-lost brother from California, and he wanted to come claim his brother's body so he could ship it to San Francisco for a proper burial. When Aver arrived at the funeral home the next day, he had another long-lost brother with him, calling himself Wayne. The undertaker released Elmer to the 2 brothers, who promptly shipped Elmer off to Kansas because these 2 brothers were actually James and Charles Patterson, and James owned the Great Patterson Carnival Show. These 2 were determined to get the popular embalmed bandit into their traveling carnival.
Oh my God.
Elmer would travel with the Great Patterson Carnival Show as the outlaw who would never be captured alive for the next 6 years, until in 1922, James sold his whole operation to Louis Sonny. Louis covered Elmer in a few layers of wax and used his corpse in a traveling museum of crime, which also featured wax replicas of famous outlaws like Bill Doolin and Jesse James. Elmer's corpse was part of the official sideshow of the 1928 Trans-American Foot Race. In 1933, he was in the possession of a movie director for a bit, and the director used him to promote his exploitation film, Narcotic.
Okay, hold on. I have a... what in the world does an embalmed corpse have to do with a foot race? Like what?
It was the official sideshow. This was in that time it was still in a time when like freak shows and sideshows and that kind of stuff were in favor. Like,
oh, I was getting like Weekend at Bernie vibes. Like, are they fucking racing him? Somebody is tying their foot to his foot and racing with him? That's a little much.
Oh my God. Why does Weekend at Bernie's come up on this podcast so much? I don't know.
Guys, I don't know. It's the fucking
Hi,
best.
how are you? Okay. So he's being used by a director to promote his exploitation film Narcotic. The director put Elmer's body in movie theater lobbies as a, quote, dead dope fiend, claiming that Elmer killed himself while surrounded by police after he robbed a drugstore to support his drug habit.
Wow. That's
So by this time,
right.
Elmer was mummified. His skin was hard and shriveled, and it shrank his body because of it, right? Like it.
I like it shrink, it shrink, it shrink, it shrink.
You know, it's a shrink down.
Like Beetlejuice with the head.
Yes. Exactly like that. After Louis Sonny died in 1949, Elmer went into storage in an LA warehouse. Louis's son, Dan, in 1964, he lent Elmer out to another movie director, and Elmer made a brief appearance in the 1967 film She Freak.
Seriously?
Yep.
This guy has a far more robust career in death than he ever had in life.
Yes, much more successful as a corpse.
You know what you should try? You should try to be a corpse. Maybe you'll find some success.
A year later in 1968, Dan sold Elmer and a bunch of other wax figures for about 10 grand to Spoonie Singh, who owned the Hollywood Wax Museum. At some point, Spoonie lent out some of his wax figures, including Elmer, to some Canadian dudes who exhibited them in a show at Mount Rushmore.
What? What in the world?
I don't know.
There's some really strange events where people are pairing up a corpse with their event, and it makes no sense.
Well, to be fair, they might have thought at this point, because it came from a wax museum, that Elmer was just a wax figure.
Okay. I don't understand.
Well, while they were there at Mount Rushmore, a big storm came through and Elmer got a little beat up and worse for the wear. The tips of his ears, along with some fingers and toes, were kind of blown off.
Oh, what? Oh, my God.
Spoonie decided that Elmer looked too gruesome and not lifelike enough to put on display anymore. And so he sold Elmer to Ed Learsh, who was part owner of the Pike. And that is how Elmer ended up covered in layers of wax and red glow-in-the-dark paint hanging by a gallows rope in the Laugh in the Dark funhouse.
Jeez. He has made his rounds.
Yes.
God damn.
Within days of the LA police identifying Elmer's body, his story was in all the papers across the U.S. Several funeral homes called the coroner's office offering to bury Elmer free of charge, but LA officials decided to wait and see if anyone would come claim Elmer's body.
No, this is not. And now he's used as a dummy in police training. No.
I'm like, haven't we done this already? This is literally how we got here in the first place.
Oh my God. This poor guy. What the fuck? No one is claiming him, okay?
No one ever claimed him.
No one.
Eventually, this guy, Fred Olds, who represented the Indian Territory Posse of Oklahoma Westerns, I don't know what that is, convinced the LA coroner to release Elmer to him so he could be buried in Oklahoma. So on April 22nd, 1977, a funeral procession took Elmer to the Boot Hill section of the Summit View Cemetery in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and Elmer was buried in a graveside service that had 300 people in attendance. And he was buried next to another famous outlaw, Bill Doolin, whose wax figure he had also spent time with. And just to make sure no one stole Elmer's mummified corpse, his casket had 2 feet of concrete poured on top of it.
Holy shit. Also, I love that his neighbor is someone that he already hung out with. His wax figure that he spent time with.
That is the life and death story of Elmer McCurdy.
Oh my God. Sister, where do you find this shit?
The interwebs has everything.
Oh my God. That was weird. Thank you for that. Oh man. I love that.
You're so welcome.
Wow. That is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard.
You know, you say that almost every time I tell you a chaos
I
story.
know. And every time I think like there ain't nothing weirder than that, it's like, well, nope, there's this one. Holy shit, sister. Good one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm really warm now.
Well, I am too. It's very hot in this room. I need to get out of here.
Yep.
Check us out on all the things. We're on all the socials. We have a
things.
Patreon. Go sign up.
Yep.
Get your bonus content.
That's right.
Get invited to a virtual wine night.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Check out Naomi's personal Twitter page at Miss Nomers, MISSGNOMERS.
Yep.
Did I do that right?
You did it right.
She's
You got
fun
it, sister.
stuff.
You got it.
Fun stuff going on over there.
You know what really, really rocks our world is a good rating on your podcast app, especially Apple. If you can write a review and tell people how fun we are or how good we are or how much you love us, that makes our day. So go do that.
Really
if you
does.
have a minute, you have a minute. Just go do that.
Do it.
So yeah. Thanks, sister. I appreciate
Thank you, sister.
I needed that today.
You.
I didn't know how much I needed
Me too.
that. Yeah.
Cleanse the soul.
And that was really super
Really
fucking chaotic.
Chaotic.
Jesus
Goodbye.
Christ.
Jesus,
take the wheel.
Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at Crime, Wine, and Chaos /Patreon. Cheers.
I'm ready to flip a table or lay down and cry.
Sure. Sounds perfect.